All right, going back to the top story, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday inaugurated the Advantage Assam 2.0 Investment and Infrastructure Summit 2025 at Guwahati on Tuesday. He pitched the state of Assam as a semiconductor hub. He said that the only thing certain in an uncertain world is India's rapid growth. Joining us is economist Dr. Amit Kapoor. Dr. Kapoor, welcome to DD India News Hub. Now, first, straight off the bat, the Advantage Assam 2.0 Investment and Infrastructure Summit 2025 in Guwahati is generating a lot of buzz. What are India's and Assam's inherent strengths that, in your opinion, make it an attractive investment destination?
So, like you were asking a very important question from an India perspective. If you really look at India, one is that it has been the growth driver for the world per se. If you really look at the world today, there are three countries which are driving the growth effectively: US, China, and India. And India has been is the biggest, brightest spot that is actually there. So close to about 7% is what we are growing at. And even if we look at the anticipation for the future, it is going to be close to about 6.7 to 7% for this year as well. But if you really break down India to say the fundamental states that we are in, we have to understand the Northeast region and specifically Assam per se. When you talk about the Northeast region, it accounts for close to about 8% of India's geographic area, close to about 3.8% of India's population. And then 12% of the tribal population of our country resides within that place itself. But what is going to happen for the future? The future is that if you really look at the base level effect in terms of, say, the total GDP that comes from Northeastern region is close to about 3% of India's GDP. So the potential that this state offers is exceptional for a simple reason: the positives that lie within the state. These are one of the states, like if you talk about Assam, which is close to about 1.25 to 1.3% of the GDP of the country. The driver for growth from Assam is going to be tremendous. And when I say tremendous, for a simple reason, the opportunities that lie within that state itself, from agriculture, from technology to tourism, are the kind of things that will happen within that state itself. But when the Prime Minister says that it can be the semiconductor hub, I fundamentally agree with it. But the challenge is going to be that how do we create that ecosystem in that state? If we are able to create that ecosystem, Assam provides the right, earnest location to be the driver for the country as well, from a semiconductor perspective and technology perspective. And let's not forget, Assam and the Northeastern region specifically is one of the youngest states that the country actually has. So it would be the Northeastern region is going to be becoming old when you talk about the aging population that India might have and the depletion of the demographic dividend over the years. It would actually be the last in terms of really getting there after UP. So if you really look at the positives are huge within that state. And if you are able to exploit the opportunity there from training to skilling, the driver for growth is going to happen. The question here is going to be that how big they can be. At this point in time, they're close to about $40 billion in terms of Assam to $60 billion in terms of GDP. The options or the opportunities are absolutely tremendous.
Right.
And Assam has been growing at a much more scorching rate than the way India has been growing. If India is growing at 7%, Assam is growing much faster than that. So it becomes one of those key drivers. The only challenge for Assam is that it has a small base effect. So the moment it goes to a certain level, say about $500 billion, it will suddenly skyrocket. And that will happen somewhere between 2035 when it starts skyrocketing towards the growth, being a growth engine within the country itself.
Dr. Kapoor, for the benefit of viewers watching this broadcast, what can you tell us about the Indian government's industrial policy insofar as the Northeast is concerned?
So, there are some very specific things that the government is doing. Like there are 2 or 3 programs that the government runs. There is a very specific ministry, which is called DONA, the Department of Northeastern Region, which spends close to about 10% of our budget in driving infrastructure investment in that location, the social progress in that location. And there is a clear, definite understanding that when you talk about Northeastern region, it is not about economic growth, it is also about social growth and social progress. And the government is fundamentally investing in those set of areas. And when you talk about industrial policy itself, there are sectors to which the government is creating those incentives. It is creating a driver in terms of saying that come and invest, and there are going to be support systems that are going to actually happen. So there is this whole of government approach and the thing that we really talk about, and it is seriously seen in action. In fact, the biggest beauty of northeastern region is it is not only about Assam itself; it is about the seven sisters that are coming together to really create the driver. And all those seven sisters can be looked at in tandem. If Assam grows, the effect, or what you might want to call it as a side effect, and a positive side effect is that the regions across, or the other 6 and 7 states around that, are going to drive a lot of growth itself. And industrial policy is supporting. Today, you are actually incentivized to come there and invest in industry. And specifically, if you talk about the sectors which have been doing well, or which are the sectors which can take forward. Like if you talk about Nagaland itself, fishing and fisheries, it is doing very well. Local education, it does very well. When you talk about states like Assam, medical devices, it is doing very well. Incidentally, the highest paid people in Assam are from either upstream chemical products, medical devices, production technology, local financial services. So what you're seeing is that they're the highest set of paid people, and it is already in a innovation driven category of employees which are driving it. So we are going to see that whole benefit accruing over a period of time.
What you say, Dr. Kapoor, gives me a perfect segue to my next question to you. Speaking about political economy, New Delhi's Act East policy is anchored in India's Northeast. The Northeast is a veritable gateway to the ASEAN. What is India doing to position the Northeast in general and Assam in particular as a player to reckon with in innovation and digital economy?
Like the digital economy, I would rather say that there is a concrete idea what India needs to do. The whole UPI thing and the benefits that have accrued and that have actually happened in Assam as well. But the bigger thing is going to be in terms of like how Northeast can become a segue to the world. If you only talk about movement of goods, the movement of goods that can actually happen from that region is tremendous. If you talk about exports or imports, talk about Myanmar, talk about Bangladesh, talk about the other set of countries that you can actually go from there. It is a tremendous opportunity to create that movement that is required. Because fundamentally, when you talk about productivity and growth of a country, it is always going to be about driven by exports, driven by movement of goods. And that is what the government is actually doing. And that Look East policy is clearly an idea that India, being a very smartly positioned from a geographical point of view, the whole belt, this ASEAN belt, can actually be activated or exploited from those set of opportunities. Incidentally, the bigger thing that we are not even talked about during this conversation is that Northeast also brings in that whole huge tourism opportunity from the Northeast itself, or from the eastern set of countries, because the fundamental cultural beliefs of Northeast are also very much in sync with what happens within the ASEAN region.
Absolutely. And finally, Dr. Kapoor, we've spoken about policies and priorities. What should India do differently, in your estimation, to encourage foreign investors to venture into the Northeast in a big way?
I think we are doing quite a lot of it.
Okay.
But there are two things that I would just say if I have to do more on it. Invest in infrastructure a little more and at a faster pace. The connectivity needs to be hastened. Because if you really look at it, there are certain states within that region which become very difficult to get to. It takes a long time to get there. If you are able to hasten that process, it will just fundamentally alter the way we are talking about doing business there. Otherwise, then the question is about fundamentally, again, pushing forward with two things, and that is healthcare, which they do very, very well. Incidentally, from a social progress point of view, northeastern states do better than a lot of other states in the country. So the social development of that region is very, very high. And so once we get it right from education and healthcare perspective, it would really drive or create a multiplier effect. Today, if you really look at it, like some of the smartest universities are actually there in that region itself, Sikkim, Assam, and there are some great universities as well. So when you have that talent which is available locally, you are really saying that that talent is going to drive innovation, creativity, and that is what is going to be happening within that set of region.
Absolutely. On that note, Dr. Kapoor, thank you for joining us and breaking it down for our viewers who are watching this broadcast at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.